And then they were like, oh, you're hemorrhaging. I was like, oh, fantastic. Holy cannoli. No one prepared me for that. The color drained from my face. I looked gray. Yeah, the Pitocin, it almost felt like, I hate to say this, he finally came out. Hey guys, Christiana here. Welcome back to my channel. Oh my goodness, it has been a minute. Last time you saw me, I was very pregnant. Now I'm not. I had a beautiful son almost 2 months ago, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my birth story. Oh my gosh, it took me a while to film this because I just was not feeling good. I'll get more into that when I tell my story, but I'm finally feeling better. I'm actually, this is a sarong, I'm gonna be enjoying my pool today and having a couple of friends over to meet the little guy. So very excited for today and just starting to get my mojo back a bit. Welcome back. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. And if you've been here before, hi, I've missed you. This is actually a day I did my makeup and put on an outfit, so I wanted to take advantage of that. Little bub is sleeping right now, which I'm going to make the most out of. He's in that 6 to 8 week mark where they're just more aware, they're going through another growth spurt, their sleep is not the best, so I'll take it while I can. Let's start from the 41 week mark. I'm doing everything I can to get this baby out of me. I had a birth plan of sorts. I feel like, oh, there he goes. I feel like any plan that you have, you hope for the best, but you never know. I did hire a doula, which was one of the best decisions I ever made. My husband calls it the doula amangala, but it's not a body part. It is a person that helps you through birth. They are your coach, they are your advocate, and I felt like that was really important to have for my first pregnancy because I had no idea what I was doing. I wanted a birth that was as natural as possible, no induction, no epidural. I wanted to really go for it, and I thought that I could and just really push my body to its limit, and I was excited for that experience. And I was not totally against the epidural as well. Like, I knew if I was suffering, I would not be, opposed to doing that. So I was not a martyr for this baby. To a 41 week appointment. Up until then, my pregnancy was great. I didn't have any issues. It was a spontaneous pregnancy and I was feeling really good. I definitely could have been more active, but towards the end, I just wanted ice cream and a couch. And my doctor said, your blood pressure is a little bit high. That's not what we like to see. I also love my doctor's office as well because they never pushed an induction. They didn't even give me an induction date at 41 weeks. It was nice I didn't have that pressure on me. They immediately said do labor and delivery at the hospital just so they can check you out. And up until that point, I was not getting any cervical checks. My doula let me know that just because you get a cervical check, it does not mean labor is upon you. Like, you could be 3 centimeters dilated and you might not even go into labor until like 2-3 weeks later. So it's not indicative of where you are in your labor process. So for me, it just wasn't worth having that being done and possibly have a risk of infection from having it checked. So I really had no idea. But leading up to the 41 week appointment, I was having crazy contractions, lightning crotch. I wouldn't even say I had Braxton Hicks. I think they were actual contractions. They just were not steady enough for me to go to the hospital. Just got out of the doctor and then I called my doula. She said evaluations take 2 to 4 hours to keep her posted, but if my blood pressure is still high or it gets higher, then they'll probably want to induce me, which I'm not too excited about. I'm hoping to do a cervical sweep, which basically just disrupts that layer and hopefully will will kickstart labor because baby boy is all the way down in my cervix, and my cervix is very thin, and I'm currently a centimeter dilated, which is crazy because I've been having crazy...
Yeah, big ass cankles too.
Yeah, I have very swollen feet, which is also concerning to the doctor. He was like, oh, it's going like all the way up your leg. I was like, yeah, I am very, very pregnant. And it's just, I just feel like an inflated balloon right now. I went to the hospital, my blood pressure is still high. They check me and I'm 70% effaced and 2 centimeters dilated. So I was kind of right in the sense that things were happening, and I couldn't believe that I was 70% effaced, because if you were to look at me and my belly, I looked pretty high still. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but it also made sense why my blood pressure was rising. And they diagnosed me with eclampsia. I'm so happy I did not Google what eclampsia meant, because I really think that saved my life, because I think if I had Googled what eclampsia was and what that meant for myself and the baby, I would have stressed out even more and made my blood pressure even higher. So at that point, my doctor was like, you can't go home. Well, you can go home, but we really advise you not go home. And she knew that I really didn't want to be induced, but given the circumstance, they knew my body was giving up. So we had to get the baby out. At that point, that's like 12 o'clock on a Monday, feeling they were going to make me stay because I was 41 weeks. This little guy was just overcooked, and like, not overcooked, he obviously can go to 42 weeks, but to me he was overcooked and I wanted him out of me. So my doctor explained that my blood pressure was high because it's working overtime to funnel all the nutrients, blood that my body needs to function, and that was also trying to give enough blood to placenta. Wow. Whew, mom brain. So as I kind of like succumbed to the fact that, okay, I'm getting induced, and I was like, oh gosh, I know with inductions and Pitocin and all of those drugs, it can be really hard not to get an epidural, but my doula did say that she has seen other women give birth without an epidural while being induced. We were still kind of going with the original plan, and I was hoping that the Cervidil, which is meant to like ripen your cervix, would kind of just kickstart all my labor and maybe not even need the Pitocin, because I really did not want to freak myself out. I was just really trying to stay calm and be comfortable. So I just changed into all of my comfy clothes. I basically remade the entire hospital bed with my blankets, my pillows, everything, my own gown. At this point, they had to put in a catheter because they were giving me these IV fluids, and I couldn't keep getting up to and from to go to the bathroom because I literally had to pee every 30 minutes. So I was filling up that catheter bag like a champ, very hydrated. My husband brought his own air mattress bed, which he got to use the first night. The second night, there was a new floor manager, and she was like, absolutely not. She like scolded us. Mind you, they did not give us a chair for him to sleep in, okay? Then my doula finally arrived that afternoon, and I was like, you have to give my people a place to sit and to sleep. This is absolutely ridiculous, especially when the hospital bill is over 40 grand and you don't have any sleeping arrangements for significant others. Wild to me. I'm like, yeah, that's a whole nother story. Woke up, they gave me side attack, and then we moved on to Pitocin, which I was very nervous about because I just did not hear positive stories about Pitocin. And at that point, my contractions were crazy. They had no particular rhythm. Sometimes they would last up to 4 or 5 minutes, just agonizing pain. The color drained from my face. I looked gray. Like, my husband was a bit worried for me. So yeah, the Pitocin, it almost felt like, I hate to say this because I don't want to scare people, but this was my experience. It felt like someone was chainsawing my bottom half open. Like, it was so painful. And I knew it was just not natural pain, if that makes sense. I just knew it was something that my body was just getting super, super agitated. I forgot to mention as well, the night before they did do a cervical sweep, which is when they go up there and they kind of scrape the surface just to kind of kickstart labor again. They usually say with cervical sweeps that it takes like 1 to 2 days after to actually see the effects. No one talks about how painful those are. It was almost more painful than pushing him out. And I'm not exaggerating because there was no like relief after. It was just sore pain. Thankfully, they don't do it for that long, but holy cannoli, no one prepared me for that. I was in such pain. I was disassociating myself from the experience. I had to remove myself from my body in order to cope with the amount of pain I was experiencing. That's why there's not a lot of video or photos of me in that process, because I just don't even want to remember that experience. I can recall it, but I was in a zombie state. After they gave me the Pitocin, I was contracting for about 5 hours, and then my doula came in and she was shocked to see me like that. And I think that's when we had the conversation about the epidural, because I did not foresee myself making it to the end of the day, even the next day possibly contracting, and then also pushing out a baby based on my energy, my strength, everything. I was just not there, which was scary too, because I did not foresee any of this happening. I don't think I was ready for things to turn out like this. Even when I hit 41 weeks, I still thought that I would go into spontaneous labor. So I just was not even thinking that this could happen to me. So thankfully, my doula, I don't know, I just always need validation. It's a problem. But having my doula say, get the epidural, gave me like the green light, the confidence to just do the epidural. The anesthesiologist came in to do the epidural. I was really excited at that point because I was just in so much pain. When she told me to stay really still, when she put in the needle, I was a statue, because I knew if I had any type of movement, any air could get in there, which would then lead to a crazy migraine, or I would have to come back to the hospital days after my baby came home because of complications. So I was just very, very still. She did it. It was the most beautiful epidural to ever be done. And I'll tell you why. Because I could still move my legs, but I could not feel anything. But I could move around. It was wild. They said they like have not seen anything like that in a while, and she said she credited it to me being very, very still. I think she was just very good at her job, but we'll go with that. Thank you. The body actually was able to relax, and then therefore I was able to dilate much more, even faster. So I'm really happy I chose to do that, or my doula chose to do that for me. I put the peanut between my legs, and she has me do like one position, and then I just hear my water just burst. When my water broke, it was just every, I would say, couple of hours, I was just dilating. So the medicine was all working, my blood pressure was stabilizing, so I was able to just get a full night's sleep and not feel anything and just let my body do its thing. So I was super excited about that. So now we're Wednesday morning. They check me. I'm about 8.5, 9 centimeters. Okay. Steven, my husband, runs out to get me a blue slushie and some breakfast, so I gobble it down. Also, they allowed me to eat the whole way through. There was never a time where they were like, you can't eat. So I thought that was wonderful. I feel like everyone says you can't eat when you're in labor. Not the case. And if I couldn't eat for all that time, I know I would be passed out on the floor. No doubt. It was a long stay in the hospital. Around noontime, they checked me again. Oh, you're 10. I'm 10? Fantastic. I'm on magnesium. I had no idea what that meant, okay? I was in loopy-doop. I was out of my mind, basically. Magnesium, I guess, relaxes you. Out. But when they told me I was 10, I was like, oh, wonderful, okay. I was like, so can we push him out now? Then I think I also said, oh, good, he'll be here just in time for lunch. I don't know. But they allowed me to push this baby out when I was in this state. A nurse on one leg, my doula on the other leg, and then my husband behind me. I had no idea what I was doing, and I could not feel anything, really. I felt pressure, but not pain because of the epidural. And I could feel my feet, I could feel my legs, but like right here, I just was numb. So when you're pushing, you're supposed to go with contractions, and the best way to describe it is like you're going number 2. And that's how I pushed him out. It was just like thinking like, oh, you push it like you're going number 2. And that's all I knew. But the first couple of pushes, I was like, I don't think I'm doing this right. And my doula was like, yeah, you're holding everything in your face, like really channel it down there. So I was getting really good pushes, but for some reason he was not coming. He was coming and then he was going back, coming and going back. To me, I thought I was pushing for 30 minutes. It turns out we were at the 2-hour mark when things were kind of like, okay, this might not work. I could tell by the looks on all the nurses' faces and my doctor coming in that if I was not going to get this baby out, they were going to have to cut me open. And I looked at my husband and I was like, you need to get me through this. I was like, I feel crazy. You need to help me. And he went into full Viking mode. He just started bearing down. He's like, you gotta push. And I, instead of waiting in between the contractions and like taking that time to go, ooh, like we just powered through. We were taking longer counts. We were not allowing that child to come back up the chute. So it got me mad, which made me push harder. He started playing the Lion King soundtrack, and I'll tell you why that made me mad a little bit later. But yeah, he finally came out.
I'm just gonna throw a diaper on him right here, and then I'll put him on you.
Wow. We have a son. I'm obsessed with him. I love him so much. He is not with us right now because we monitor him for a bit, and then we will be able to go home. And we've been here for 5 days now, so I am so exhausted. Breastfeeding has been tricky, but I think now we're like on a better path. I was just at the part where you helped me push him out. He went Viking mode.
Baby Viking mode?
Remember? You're like, go.
Poop him out, poop him out, poop him out.
Yep. 8.1 pounds, 21 inches long. Then I had to deliver the Afterbirth, and this is where it kind of got scary. Oh my God, that was the weirdest thing. It was like giving birth to a jellyfish, and then they were like, oh, you're hemorrhaging. I was like, oh, fantastic. Again, I was so out of it that it didn't really faze me. It's so weird when you're put in these life-threatening situations, how you just kind of go off into something else. You think of something else to just get through it, because it's terrifying. It really is. So they got the bleeding under control. I can't believe I'm gonna put this on the internet. They gave me this drug that the nurse put her hand on my shoulder. She's like, this is gonna help with your bleeding, but it will give you diarrhea. Great, so give birth to a baby and have a colonic. So I'm still dealing with high blood pressure, which I had never had before in my life. And now that's something I have to deal with and maintain and hopefully get to a better, healthier place. But that is why this recovery process was so difficult. Every time I stood up, I would get lightheaded. I was breastfeeding. I just felt completely drained, like a ghost of a human being. So it was very, very difficult, to say the least. Breastfeeding, on the other hand, again, I don't know why people don't talk about this. Everyone thinks it's like a natural thing, like you just breastfeed. It was the most excruciating pain. All I can describe birth as is pain. 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 Obviously, you get this wonderful thing at the end of it. If you didn't, no one would do it. And now I understand why mothers choose not to breastfeed, not only for their sanity, but just like overall body health. Like, my nipples were tore up, okay? But I got a lactation consultant to come in to our home like 2 days after we got home, because I was like, something must be wrong. I must be doing this wrong. I don't want my nipples to die, and I don't want it to bleed. And I thought they were tore up. And she was like, no, on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 being the worst I've ever seen, you're about a 2. And I started crying. I was like, there's just no way. There's no way. How do people do this? Thankfully, he wasn't tongue-tied or anything, and he could suckle, which was great. So it was just a matter of getting used to everything. And basically, your nipples got to go raw and be built back up again in order to do the job. He was doing crazy cluster feeds, which again, no one talks about. Once you bring them home from the hospital, they cluster feed. I can't even explain how excruciating that was. He was hungry back to back to back. So you're putting him on, switching him on and off. Like after one feed, maybe 10 minutes, 30 minutes later, if I'm lucky, he'll be hungry again. And I know that that's to help the body produce more milk. It's signaling to your body like, hey, kick it up a gear. I thought it was just one night of cluster feeds. No, anytime he has a growth spurt of any sort, he will want that again. Thankfully now, like, this area has toughened up and I can just do it easier. That is the tail. Oh, I didn't even tell you his name yet. This is Lion Steven, and he's absolutely precious. And a lot of people were very confused by his name. I wanted something unique. I actually thought of this name when I was in high school. And all the men on my side of the family are named Leonard, down to my nephew, who's the 4th Leonard in the family. We call him Leo. And Leonard means lion strength, lion heart. So I thought lion would be a beautiful ode to all of them. Steven is after his dad. And a little bit of a flair, naming him Lyon instead of Lion. And I also love France. So there's Lyon in France. So it just made sense for us, name him Lion. And also I think what lions represent are all the things I hope my son can encompass as he grows. And that is why I was really pissed at my husband for playing the Lion King as he was coming out of me, because, you know, and it was the circle of life. That is the story of how he came into this world. We love him so much. He's starting to develop definitely his own little personality. He's starting to smile at us and actually like look at the dogs and connect and turn his head and you know, all those wonderful things. Because after all of that mess, I cannot wait to have another baby. Cuckoo. I love you to bits.